to get the program on the road. To the chairperson of the World Customs Organization Council and the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Service, to the Commissioner General of the Eswatini Revenue Service, the dignitaries from other government organizations amongst us, the members of trade, both from Eswatini and South Africa, our members of the media, all customs officers amongst us. Allow me, distinguished guests, to welcome you to the time release study between Oshoek and Ngwenya border posts. I am the program director for today, Pozimbiko. We try to shy away from MC because depending on how the program goes, one can be described as a mental case. This year, South Africa celebrates 30 years of democracy. So on this momentous occasion, we'd like to take a moment and honor the human spirit that brought us out of our darkness. No, I don't mean load shedding. We are still praying about that one. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in singing the South African national anthem. IT, over to you. Thank you very much. You may be seated. We have a very jam-packed program today. My speakers already got the memo. So before we get the business of the day started, there are just few house rules I need to share. For the restrooms, they are on the left of the building, indicated by the conventional indications. On my side, on the right, we have the first exit point during an emergency. We have another one right at the back, and we have the third one on my left. I was just told to really stress this. Should there be any emergency, such as, I don't know, a fire, please do not panic. All officials that are wearing the uniform will allow the guests to leave first. Even if the fire catches up with you, I've been told the uniforms are fireproofed. Obviously not mine. But there's an assembly point just outside after the parking lot, and that's where we'll assemble. But I was guaranteed no catastrophe is about to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome on stage from Eswatini, the Commissioner of Customs, Mrs. Gugu Mahlinza, to just give us her welcoming and her opening remarks. Mrs. Gugu, over to you.
All protocol observed. Good morning to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this event where we are launching the report of the first ever bilateral time release study between Eswatini and South Africa. I am very excited and hope you are too. You will recall that in November 2023, we met in this fashion at Oshoek, Gwenya border post, to commission the execution of the bilateral TRS between the two countries. We appreciate the generous gesture from our South African counterparts, SARS, who offered to host today's event, where we are gathered to officially publicize the TRS report. Looking at the facilities we are using, one clearly sees the high level of commitment and significance placed to the TRS, which is evidenced by the dedicated resources, human, financial, as well as time, to ensure the success of this important event. And for this, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to join me in applauding SARS in coordinating the preparations and their generosity and hospitality. May I make reference to the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, Article 7.6, which encourages member states to periodically measure and publish the average release time of goods at entry points, which therefore makes it more important to publicize the report. In making this information publicly available, indicates accountability and service commitment by all the border stakeholders, as clients will now expect us to work within these performance thresholds or even better. It follows, therefore, that we have to collaborate so that our processes do not needlessly lengthen the clearance times. We note the presence of media, who play an important role in availing information to the public and can also provide an independent assessment of our performance against the standards we are communicating through this report. We further anticipate that they will continue to update our clients on the implementation of initiatives arising from the TRS, as these are undertaken with the purpose of improving the service we provide to clients in facilitating cross-border movement of goods. I would like to convey special appreciation to the technical working group constituted from the various stakeholders entity with a presence at our borders and commend their excellent work ethic. They understood their assignments and successfully executed the study, culminating to the report we are gathered to receive today. I also want to sincerely thank the clients and partners such as transporters and customs clearing agents who cooperated and agreed to participate in the survey by providing the data used to assess the performance of our processes. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to follow the program as we will be receiving insightful speeches and presentations from the esteemed speakers who have a wealth of knowledge about the TRS, its strategic relevance, not just at the level of one or a few administrations, but at national and bilateral level, as we all understand trade to be a backbone of our economies. By removing bottlenecks and hurdles that delay the clearance of and release of goods at the borders, we are making a huge contribution to the growth of our industries, their competitiveness through reduced trade costs and creating an environment that will encourage even small-scale and informal traders to participate in cross-border trade. I therefore trust that we are all eagerly awaiting feedback on the findings and how these will be used going forward in order to improve the efficiency of our processes so that through increased cross-border trade, our economies can thrive and positively impact the livelihoods of the societies served by our governments. With these remarks, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Let me promise you that you will enjoy the event, and I hereby declare the event officially opened. Thank you.
Thank you, Sis Gugu. Thank you for your words. Collaboration, ladies and gentlemen, is defined by the English thesaurus as the working together for a common goal. It is therefore our theme today that collaboration for effective trade facilitation. And the speakers today will demonstrate this phenomenon. It is now time to welcome our keynote addresses. Yes, not one keynote address, we have three. The Deputy Secretary General of the World Customs Organization, Mr. Ricardo Trevino. IT, please usher in Mr. Trevino.
Hello, my greetings to South African Revenue Service Commissioner and Chairperson of WCO Council, Mr. Edward Kieswetter, to the Eswatini Revenue Service Commissioner General, Mr. Brightwell Inkumbale, members of the TRS technical working groups, representatives of Eswatini's National Committees on Trade Facilitation Committee, and the chairman of South Africa's Border Management Authority and other governmental agencies, representatives of the private sector, and the High Commission of the United Kingdom, Excellencies, distinguished participants, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and with all protocol observed, it is my pleasure to address you today at this important milestone of the launch of the time release study reports at the Oshoek Ungwenya border post. It is the first of its kind, an end-to-end time release study conducted by two bordering countries in the Southern Africa Customs Union. The World Customs Organization is a membership organization that sets international standards for customs by customs and offers tools on best practices for its 186 members. Part of this is capacity building and technical assistance to bring member administrations to internationally recognized standards and by sharing best practices. We use a customs-to-customs approach and collaboration between customs administrations all around the world. In this context, the WCO Accelerate Trade Facilitation Program, as financially sponsored by the United Kingdom, has a multi-year partnership with both South African Revenue Service and Eswatini Revenue Service to help support the effective implementation of the World Trade Organization's Trade Facilitation Agreement across various technical measures and through customs organizational development. The WTO's Trade Facilitation Agreement, to which both South Africa and Eswatini are a party, is a binding and mandatory agreement and contains provisions on expediting the movement, release, and clearance of goods. It also sets out measures for effective cooperation between customs and other border agencies. The TFA is widely recognized as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to not only get customs on board, but all stakeholders, including private sector, and these for effective trade facilitation reforms and to foster sustainable development through inclusive trade-led growth. This is especially important for SMEs, which are disproportionately affected by intransparent and burdensome border procedures. That is why today's event is so exciting, as it provides a unique opportunity to boost South Africa's and Eswatini's national competitiveness by making cross-border trade quicker, easier, and less costly. We all know that transparency and predictability of border procedures is crucial for smooth trade flows and global supply and value chains, especially for intra-regional trade. This is also key for investment. In that context, a time release study, one of the provisions of the TFA, is a unique tool for the governments of South Africa and Eswatini, and it has two objectives. First, to provide a baseline to measure current performance on cargo clearance procedures at the borders. Here, it is also important to note that while there are various global indexes and rankings, a TRS is the only real quantitative baseline. It is not perception-based, but based on real data. And second, to diagnose bottlenecks that cause delays and analyze the root causes, identifying room for improvement and solutions to make import and export quicker and easier. It is about a partnership with all stakeholders involved to foster a stronger business enabling environment, and with that, the national economic prosperity. The time release study methodology has proven its value over the years, with clear examples from every corner of the globe. One of the more recent examples comes from the continent, Zambia, having received WCO capacity building conducted studies in 2019 and 2023, showing the average clearance time for imports falling from 7 days to just 2 days. This is just a clear illustration of the success a TRS can bring, and also shows that a TRS is not to be a one-time off exercise. The idea here is to measure impact of reforms over time, so another TRS would take place in, for example, 2 years' time to measure the progress of the reforms undertaken. Moreover, the time release studies would take place also at other border posts. Therefore, it is important that a country has the competency, confidence, and drive to conduct TRS themselves rather than relying on, for example, development partners or consultants. What I do like to share is that across countries we have seen that it is not always easy to keep the momentum for the finalization of time release study once the data collection has finished. Unfortunately, it is not a given that a report indeed gets finalized and the key findings published. That is why I take this opportunity to acknowledge and applaud the dedication of the 2 TRS technical working groups to complete the studies and for making it possible for us to celebrate the publication of the TRS report today. This event serves as an inspiring example of national ownership and political commitment, showcasing the best practices for successful TRS implementation. It has been truly an inclusive process, ensuring the buy-in and commitment of all stakeholders, including, of course, the private sector, and with a joint validation of the findings. I would like to thank the representatives of all government agencies, the trade community, the Commissioner of SARS, and the Commissioner General of ERS, who have been champions for reform and modernization, focusing on cooperation and partnerships with a broad group of stakeholders. Today's event clearly illustrates that there is a great joint enthusiasm for tangible change and partnership for the benefit of the traders and people of South Africa and Eswatini. This is not a customs initiative. It is a comprehensive whole-of-government approach at the international level, jointly implemented by 2 neighboring countries. Additionally, I express appreciation to the customs administrations of Zambia and Namibia in supporting this initiative by having their TRS specialists share their experiences and thereby fostering the WCO's customs-to-customs model, also in the spirit of knowledge exchange between partner countries within the WCO Accelerate Trade Facilitation Program. The 2 inspirational and comprehensive end-to-end time-release studies launched today have provided invaluable insights into clearance procedures at the border and have resulted in clear recommendations to reduce bottlenecks, streamline procedures and processes. South Africa and Eswatini have each identified key recommendations and corresponding actions to enhance their procedures based on these TRS findings. Now, while a TRS represents a crucial step in the customs modernization journey, it is essential to recognize that it is an ongoing process aimed at identifying average clearance times at each stage of the trade procedures. I therefore encourage both countries to maintain their momentum and unwavering commitment to implement the TRS findings and recommendations, viewing it as an opportunity to foster economic prosperity. In this light, it is great and exciting to hear that there are already implementation plans in place. We note a long-term goal and common recommendation from both reports, which is the consideration of converting the border post into a one-stop border post. The selection of the Oshoek Ngwenya border post for this study as a key transport corridor is significant due to its status as the land border post with the highest trade volumes in the South African Customs Union. With around 80% of Eswatini's imports from within SACU passing through this border post and facilitating around 80% of South Africa's exports, its strategic importance cannot be overstated. We congratulate you again on this milestone achieved and wish you every success with implementation of TRS recommendations. We, as WCO, under the Accelerate Trade Facilitation Program, stand ready to further assist you where possible in your endeavor and vision, and look forward to our continued partnership for the greater benefit of the people of Eswatini and South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Trevino. Borders divide, but customs unite. Thank you for those words. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it brings me a great honor to call the SARS Commissioner. He is also, as I said earlier, the chairperson of the World Customs Organization Council. Now, something I must tell you about the Commissioner is that he's got a very good ear for music. So not only does the man sing, but he also conducts. So it is no secret that through the years that he has been at SARS, he has conducted the choir that is SARS, or the orchestra that is SARS, all different parts thereof, to reach harmony. So if you see us marching together, you see us doing things together, it's because the Commissioner has an extra talent. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the Commissioner of SARS, Mr. Edward Kisweta.
You look so smart. Thank you, Program Director, for setting me up to fail. Commissioner General of the Eswatini Revenue Service, my colleague and friend, Mr. Brightwell Nkambule, together with your distinguished delegation from Eswatini, it's really special to host you here today, and thank you for visiting us on such a special occasion. And having been partners to this journey, it is right that you are here. I also would like to recognize representatives of the World Customs Organization of the United Kingdom, representatives of those who have supported this event, or not the event, the process leading up to the event, and then also leadership of the National Facilitation Committee of the World Trade Organization, the Border Management Authority leadership of South African Police Service, the Department of Trade and Industry, and leaders of professional bodies, distinguished guests, members of the media, SARS colleagues, and specifically the officers of our customs and border management organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Sanibonani, Goeiemorgen. Welcome. Ngiyajabula ukunibona nani. For nations around the globe, trade is the lifeblood of their economies. Even though volumes have declined around 4.5% and 5.5% respectively for exports and imports year on year, global trade last year was still around $24 trillion. Furthermore, a stark reality reported by the Global Financial Integrity is that at least $1.6 to $2.2 trillion of trade is illicit. The role of customs in the global trade is often not well understood. Customs is significantly more than an enforcement agency at the ports of entry, which is the most visible manifestation of customs. But instead, customs play a pivotal facilitation role in the efficacy and the integrity with which trade flows are managed. The facilitation role has to balance with the enforcement role. The integrity of cross-border supply logistics must guard the domestic economy from economic distortions, but also protect society from harmful and abusive products, substances, and services. The rapidly changing world, where business models increasingly evolve to be digitalized, non-jurisdiction, and virtual, implies that physical borders are competing with virtual and non-physical borders for the production and movement of goods and services. And this technological innovation has also made the task of customs more complex and challenging. The natural systems of traders are expanding, and compliance therefore more complex. Customs administration pursue the aspiration of voluntary compliance, believing that most traders are honest and want to comply. We therefore cannot do this effectively without the enablement of adaptable, modern, and smart customs administrations. The rapid evolution towards data-driven artificial intelligence provides both opportunities and risks. They provide the same opportunities for the criminals as well that they provide for us. Of course, smart customs is about increasing the use of big data, data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Smart technologies presents a tremendous opportunity and challenge in the cross-border movement of people and the movement of legitimate goods and services. On the commercial side, as huge volumes of data are generated by people, goods, and services moving across borders, innovative technologies provide the ability to make sense of this vast and ever-increasing amount of data. The importance, if I can turn for a moment, of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement cannot be overemphasized as it seeks to bring relief to 30 million Africans experiencing extreme poverty and boost the incomes of nearly 68 million others who live on less than $5.50 a day. In the context of the audience today, it is noteworthy that 292 billion of the estimated $450 billion of potential income gains that the free trade agreement is modeling would come simply from a stronger and a more effective facilitation of trade. In other words, from the measures to reduce red tape and simplify cross-border procedures will make it easier for African businesses to integrate into the global supply chains. It is vital to understand and to take the collective responsibility for the fact that these gains will require major efforts to reduce the burden on business and traders to cross borders quickly and safely, with minimal interference by officials. Along with our partners' agencies within government, SARS is committed to the modernization of cross-border processes to improve the facilitation of legitimate trade cost investment and enhancing the competitiveness of our trade corridors within the Southern African Customs Union, and thus contribute to the growth of our local economies and the empowering framework provided by the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. And this is in complete alignment with our sense of higher purpose, mindful that the transformative impact of our work has on the lives of millions of the most vulnerable Africans. It is therefore quite timely that we are here today following a timely study exercise that was recently conducted at the Oshoek Ngwenya border post through a collaboration by SARS, the Eswatini Revenue Service, and the World Customs Organization in partnership with the UK AID, the South African Border Management Authority, the South African Police Service, and representatives from our cross-border trading community. The time-release study is an important instrument to drive the implementation of the Free Trade Agreement by introducing the cross-border efficiencies that makes it lucrative for intra-Africa trade to expand and flourish. A time-release study seeks to measure the actual end-to-end time required for the clearance, processing, and release of goods, with a view to finding and eliminating the bottlenecks in trade flows, identifying and quantifying the scope thereof, isolating and understanding the reasons for it, and then defining the improvements that must be made and the measures to be instituted to achieve the aspiration of a more efficient and effective trade facilitation process. On a regional level, within the South African Customs Union, we're embarked for some time now with member states on trade facilitative programs, such as the Authorized Economic Operator Program and the Customs Connectivity Program. The time-release study must now be applied to leverage further trade facilitation benefits within SACU by examining how we apply the benefits of these initiatives in the shortest possible time. We must stop talking and start doing with greater urgency. Because none of these technologies and concepts are new. They've been around for at least the last 2 decades. The TRS at Oshoek in Ngwenya has demonstrated that we can reduce border processing times from 1.5 hours to 10 minutes in a very short space of time, and that it is a phenomenal improvement. However, that is only on the South African side between the 2 countries, that we need to extend these measures and efficiencies to every other side of our neighboring borders if we are to realize our full facilitation, and thus emphasizing the need for partnership and collaboration. We have to ask why, in a highly digitalized economy, we are still requiring the inefficient and error-prone paper documentation and some manual processing in some areas of customs. This does not serve our aspiration to provide traders and travelers with a seamless cross-border experience. It will contribute significantly to the sustainable economic development of South Africa, our SARC member countries, and the African continent at large, if we can achieve this aspiration. And therefore, we have to accelerate the arrangements to best serve the needs of citizens and businesses by viewing cross-border trade through the eyes of traders and travelers, and not always, as we sometimes do, through that of the individual cross-border regulatory agencies and regional customs administrations. Yes, the elephant in the room is that we also have to start working better between our own agencies before we can work better across the border between agencies from the other country. And so we have work to do, and some of it is deeply ingrained in old habits that we have to get beyond. We are currently exchanging 89% of customs transactional data through customs connectivity and with SARC customs administrations. It is our view that in SARS that there is no better time than the present for the development of a single regional customs declaration for SARC, and similarly, the same question must be asked as to the unified reporting of electronic road manifest data by transporters across SARC, and what that means for transport controls by means of electronic seals and tracking technology, thereby also shifting those controls away from the front line towards remote viewing and audit. As SARC Directors General and Commissioners, we must actively collaborate and share our modernization efforts. We're all trying to solve for the same challenge, and therefore there's no reason why we should compete with each other, but rather work with each other. As an integral component of the SARS Customs Modernization Program, our close relationships with the Eswatini Revenue Service and the recent launch of the Border Management Authority created the opportunity to leverage the capability as building assistance that is available under the WCO Accelerate Trade Facilitation Program. When Commissioner Kambule and I met on the sidelines of the June 2023 WCO Policy Commission and Council meeting in Brussels last year with Ms. Donia Hamami, a program manager of the WCO Capacity Building Directorate, we agreed that this was a priority program for our administrations to pursue and thus set the wheels in motion that culminates in this milestone achievement. A detailed plan was put in place. The Ngwenya Oshoek border post was selected to conduct the time release study late in 2023 with the valuable support of the WCO technical experts, along with a highly appreciated donor funding from the UK Aid and in partnership with all relevant stakeholders. This border post was specifically selected as it is the land border post with the highest trade volumes in the Southern African Customs Union, and it is a gateway to a road network that connects domestic, international, and transit cargo to South Africa and to the ports of Durban as well as Eswatini and to Mozambique. The friendly relationships between SARS and ERS and all related agencies and partners was also an important ingredient for a successful study, because in the end it is all about relationships and people and the goodwill that exists between them. Trade flows between our two countries is not inconsequential. Eswatini is ranked as our 21st largest trading partner, compared to being 20th in 2019, with South Africa maintaining a trade balance surplus over the past 5 years. In 2023, South African exports to Eswatini reached almost 30 billion, with refined petroleum products being the lead commodity, followed by electricity and maize. Over the same period, South Africa imported goods from Eswatini to the value of over 25.2 billion rand, and South Africa's main imports were mixtures of resins, beverage syrup, sugars, and binders for foundry molds. Total trade between the two countries increased by 7.5 billion, or 15% in 2023, due to an increase in exports and an increase in imports, respectively. Let me turn to the results of the TRS very briefly. From the outset, it must be noted that whilst a time-release study is a concept defined and developed by the WCO to support member countries to facilitate trade, and while SARS is charged with the administration of cross-border trade, the application of the TRS within SARS context is not limited to customs processing alone, but encompasses the entire cross-border process and involves all regulatory stakeholders active at the ports of entry and at our borders. For this reason, ERS, the Border Management Authority, and the South African Police Service were key participants and partners to the TRS measured, and the end-to-end entire process, including all of these parties, was essential from the time a truck first arrives at the border until its exit, including the individual processes of each customs administration. You can imagine it would be futile for customs to give a particular trader or passenger a green lane experience if that same experience is frustrated because of another agency not working together, not having the same information. So this collaboration between agencies and across borders are essential to the success of trade facilitation. Over the 4 days of the detailed study, a sample of 323 declarations per day for exports and 51 declarations per day for imports were utilized, tracked against specific and detailed processes, flow maps, and the results analyzed in detail. To establish a baseline, the process both ways were measured. The end-to-end turnaround times at the border was recorded as follows. For exports, 1 hour and 24 minutes for exports at Oshoek, and 1 hour and 1 minute at Ngwenya. For imports, 34 minutes at Oshoek and 43 minutes at Ngwenya. Import verification processes for customs and other government agencies at Oshoek took an average of 24 minutes. Because trucks are not currently processed as a single unit at Oshoek, drivers must park outside the control area, then queue for the immigration formalities together with pedestrians and bus and taxi passengers, and thereafter retrieve their trucks for the exports. And the waiting time for drivers in the immigration queue alone is 23 minutes, and for imports, 7 minutes. Another important aspect is pre-clearance to contribute towards port efficiency. Operators are advised to obtain pre-clearance ahead of coming to the borders to ensure the smooth flow of goods across the borders. Shipments would otherwise face increased risks of delays and disruptions, resulting in significant financial losses. Providing data electronically to regulators prior to the arrival of goods also expedite compliance verifications by customs and other government agencies, who then use their time and resources to manage other security threats and compliance risks. Whilst the authorized economic operator during this time was only 2% of the transactions, the value is still relatively high. Yet, the TRS data during the study showed that only 1 in 4, or 25% of the customs declarations submitted to traders to customs are still not being pre-cleared. Furthermore, 25% of bills of entries and manifest are only submitted within an hour before the truck is marked for arrival at the border post. Literally on or at the border post, some of these declarations are completed. The importer, exporter, or clearing agent average then adds on average then adds 42 minutes to completing the capturing, submission, and processing of the bills of entry and electronic road freight manifests. SARS actually processes these submissions literally within seconds to clear the goods. We recognize that due to network and connectivity delays, sometimes the messaging takes up to 5 minutes before the clearing agencies receive release messages, but it's still the smallest percentage of the time. The longest time here seems to be those other inefficiencies. Governments are in partnership with traders and travelers who engage in legitimate cross-border trade and movement, An integrated as well as an efficient and effective process lowers both the cost and risk of this socio-economic activities. This end-to-end view of TRS enables the expectation of traders and travelers towards providing a seamless and safe cross-border experience to be achieved. The efficient time release of goods is not the end of the road, though, but an important step towards greater trade facilitation. We must build on the foundational insight provided by the time release study, and with equal diligence work towards a fully fledged single window experience. Customs connectivity and the exchange of customs information, economic and customs data, further enables the alignment between SARS and ERS. But beyond that, customs within SACU, the Southern African Development Community, and the international customs administrations. This connectivity will deliver a more secure and efficient trade facilitation, another integral role played by customs in the protection of society. As we heard, borders divide, customs connect. These are important aspects of the SARS Customs Modernization Program towards smart borders, to move away from traditional manual and inefficient border processes towards greater automation, security, and efficacy. Trade facilitation must increasingly draw benefit from the deployment of data science, artificial intelligence, and enabling technology in providing a seamless green lane experience for compliant operators and a more intelligent identification of risks, targeted case selection for non-compliant traders and travelers, whilst allowing us to prevent and prosecute criminals and syndicates who abuse our ports of entry, distort our domestic economies, and cause harm to societies. We have already embarked on mutually recognizing each other's AEOs within the SACU region, and this program seeks to reward customs compliance, reward operators for their customs compliance with increased levels of trade facilitation. And so as a benefit during the TRS, what was able to be achieved is the following. As a result, turnaround times declined from 1 hour and 24 minutes for exports and 34 minutes for imports to a mere 10 minutes for each, a significant reduction. And everything else has a knock-on effect from there. The Director of Customs will later share some of the specific recommendations that comes out of this study. To conclude, though, as our journey towards effective, measurable trade facilitation gains momentum, driven by our customs modernization program, and with the active support of our partners and key stakeholders in pursuit of building a smart, modern SARS with unquestionable integrity that is trusted and admired, I commend all partners of the time release study team for your hard work and dedication. A special appreciation to Ms. Donia Hamami, who continued to harass all of us to keep us honest and on track. Thank you for the respective customs teams on both sides, along with the teams from the other partnering agencies. It is now my distinguished honor and privilege to release the report and its findings. I am confident that the insight and recommendations from this time release study will inform our strategies, initiatives, and operational implementations moving forward, and it will contribute significantly to the sustainable economic development of South Africa, our SACU member colleagues, and the African continent in general. Launching the report publicly is itself a charter of the service traders can expect of us at the Oshoek Ngwenya port between Eswatini and South Africa, and the aspiration eventually for all our ports of entry. Having demonstrated what can be achieved when there is sufficient goodwill between partners, it is now my wish that we can scale this up as an important intervention for the benefit of all our SACU partners. Thank you. Baie dankie. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you to the Commissioner. And Commissioner, you did very well. You did not fail. Another round of applause for Mr. Kiswetter. Now, it is really befitting that we embrace the spirit of partnership and collaboration. As you heard from the Commissioner's speech, this is a strategic border post for the trade that must happen between South Africa and Eswatini. Over 300 trucks, I am told, pass through this border post on a daily basis. Let me not give it all away, because now I want to welcome the Commissioner General of Eswatini, Gasol, wena wasenhla, Msuthu, Mswati, Mr. Brighto Nkambule, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Program Director, a lady of many talents. Commissioner of South African Revenue Service and Council Chair at the World Customs Organization, representative of the South African Border Management Authority, representative of the UK and His Majesty's Revenue and Customs Services, representatives of the World Customs Organization, members of the National Trade Facilitation Committee of both Eswatini and South Africa, executive management from SARS, ERS, BMA, representatives of the private sector and government officials, Joint Time-Release Study Technical Working Group, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Dumela, Goeiemorgen, Sanibonani. May I thank you all for joining us in this very important event. It is an honor for me to stand before you today as we officially launched the Time-Release Study report that was conducted jointly by Eswatini and South Africa. We are grateful for the capacity building delivered by the WCO and His Majesty's Revenue and Customs Service of the UK. The success of this study is a significant milestone in our shared mission to facilitate seamless trade as countries with very close economic and social ties. Further, as members of a number of regional economic communities such as SADC, SACU, and AFTA, today's event is a demonstration of the historical collaboration and strong ties between Eswatini and South Africa. The TRS, whose report we are launching today, symbolizes our unique partnership. Conducting a joint TRS rather than individual national studies highlights our commitment to viewing the border as a bridge that connects rather than a dividing line. While borders divide, customs connect. The Oshoek border post was selected as the focus of this study because of the strategic value to the economies of the two countries, highlighted by my colleague earlier. The TRS shall therefore provide us with actionable insights to enhance clearance process efficiencies and deliver substantial benefits to the clients we serve, which we believe will have a positive impact on economic performance of our countries. Reflecting on our collaborative history, specifically between ERS and SARS, I'm confident in our ability to achieve our shared goal of seamless border crossings. We have been successful in implementing a number of best practice programs, such as the VAT refunds scheme, the authorized economic operator program, and the electronic data exchange, where we share data on customs declarations. Based on the findings from the TRS, there are opportunities to enhance these products so we can deliver better value to our clients. The study provides actionable recommendations to streamline procedures and reduce the time taken in clearing goods. The involvement of all border stakeholders in the process ensures ownership of the results and provides a basis to mobilize support in improving clearance procedures by all participating agencies. Upon successful implementation of the recommendations, we shall realize the transparency and predictability required by business. Further, we anticipate a resolution of what has become a recurrent problem at the Ngwenya Oshoek border post. The congestion at this border has not only affected the flow of goods between our countries, it has also affected movement of travelers and tourists. I would like to add that the TRS publication has been delivered at the right time, just as the Eswatini National Trade Facilitation Committee was concluding their roadmap for the year 2024 to 2026. The NTFC shall supervise the implementation of the recommendations. As I conclude, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Commissioner of SARS, Edward Kieswetter, and Donia Hamani from World Customs Organization for their commitment in ensuring the study becomes a success. And Edward, just to assure you, Donia harasses everyone. As recently as yesterday, she was insisting on how we will monitor implementation of the program. And I did assure her that we are men and women of action. We appreciate the contribution of the Border Management Authority under the leadership of Commissioner Mike Masiapato. I would like to recognize the WCO for facilitating technical assistance and support under the WCO Accelerate Trade Facilitation Program and the United Kingdom under the auspices of His Majesty's Revenue and Customs. I would like to appreciate the WCO for the continued support to the region in advancing the aspirations of WCO's Mercator program, as it provides strategic approaches towards the trade facilitation agreement implementation. Our appreciation goes to members of the Eswatini National Trade Facilitation Committee for their participation as well. We have with us this morning the co-chair at this table here, who is CEO of Business Eswatini. We have the director in the Ministry of Commerce, Director of Trade, and we have the PS in the Ministry of Agriculture, and the PS in the Ministry of Home Affairs, as well as other members of our NTFC. Lots of thanks as well to the TRS Working Group for their collaborative effort in making this day a historical success. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Siyabonga. Realeboga. Baie dankie.
I mean, I could leave the mic like this, but I'll be depriving you guys of all this awesomeness. So I'll bring it down. An important time has come for us to welcome the representative of the United Kingdom. We've really gone all out as SARS to showcase our IT prowess, because at first we ushered the WCO using a video. Now you will see how we are doing an audio with the picture on the screen. Really groundbreaking stuff. And it is important that we do this presentation because these type of events or these types of studies cost money. So in the true African proverb, "Uska bora moreki." So IT, please play the audio from Mr. Simon, not to be confused with Mr. Biden, but Bowden from the United Kingdom. IT, over to you.
Your Excellencies and distinguished participants, good morning. It's a real pleasure to have been invited to represent the British government at this event. And I'm only sorry that some last-minute logistical challenges and my own poor state of health have prevented me from joining you in person today. I would like to thank all participants for your support in facilitating the launch of the time-release study and this report. The UK is proud to have worked in partnership with SACU, the South African Revenue Service, SARS, and the Eswatini Revenue Service, ERS, for several years. The Accelerate Trade Facilitation Programme, with support from the World Customs Organization, has supported this time-release study as an essential step towards modernising and simplifying customs procedures on both sides of the border. We are excited to see how both nations implement changes based on the programme's findings to promote trade competitiveness and economic growth. It's within the context of this wider strategic partnership that the UK was delighted to support the capacity building of the TRS working group to execute this end-to-end TRS between Eswatini and South Africa. The coordination between both countries illustrates the importance of the Oshoek-Ngwenya border, one of the busiest land crossings between South Africa and Eswatini, with an average of 600 trucks crossing each day. This piece of collaborative and ongoing work between SARS and DRS, working with experts from the WCO, has delivered a widely recognised tool that identifies bottlenecks in border processes and enables both border agencies to improve the efficiency of trade between the two countries. This work has already seen some highly promising results, with both countries establishing technical working groups that show a successful example of cross-agency collaboration and engagement with the private sector, who have been critical to understanding the challenges facing traders at the border posts. This has certainly set standards for best practice and provided a strong example for an effective TRS working group. We would like to thank all members of the TRS Technical Working Group for their commitment to the project and congratulate you all on the launch of the report. We hope the report will serve as a useful step in identifying areas for improvement in trade facilitation for both Eswatini and South Africa, and will be a significant step in promoting innovative reforms and ultimately higher volumes of trade at the port. I would like to thank in particular the Eswatini Revenue Service Commissioner General, Mr. Brightwell Nkambule, the South African Revenue Service Commissioner, Mr. Edward Kieswetter, representatives of Eswatini's National Committee of Trade Facilitation and the Chairman of South Africa's Border Management Authority and other governmental agencies, including the Commissioners of respective national customs agencies. Your leadership and support have made this project a reality. Your enthusiasm for this collaborative effort and bringing the right people together to form the technical working group has been instrumental to the project's success. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the United Kingdom, mostly for funding the study more than anything. Now it is time for us to have a small break. It's going to be a tea break. For all my excise colleagues, there's no excise to be collected for tea. However, we might collect some sugar taxes. I'll ask the first 3 tables, if you guys have been on the rows at a time. So table 1, 2, and 3, can you please make your way to the tea station? And thereafter, 4, 5, and 6 will follow. It's just tea, so we will be back here again at 12 o'clock sharp, so we can proceed with the program. A lot more exciting stuff is about to happen. So we can continue. Or you guys want a longer break? A shorter break. 11:30. I am led. Never mind that I'm the program director. I shall take the leadership. We are back at 11:30. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Nothing tastes better than free tea. Nothing tastes better than free food. So the commissioners, while we wait for them, they're doing interviews because, you know, that's what we do. We get members of the press very interested in the work that we do. So I thought, whilst we're waiting for the commissioners, are the only lawyers in the house? Am I the, okay, who said that? So I thought I must share this experience. This doctor tells a story. Any doctors in the house? Dr. Juanita, you don't count? So the doctor says, guys, I've got a brilliant idea. I'm going to put up a sign that says, if you get healed, you pay me $20. Yeah, of course, it was in America. We don't have yet dollars. These are not Zim dollars, guys. You pay me $20, but if I fail, I pay you $100. So the lawyers, in their true fashion, decide, okay, this is an opportunity to make some money. This lawyer goes to the doctor and says to the doctor, doctor, I've lost my sense of smell, my sense of taste. Doctor says, no problem. Calls the help, look at drawer 3 and bring me the medicine. Gives the lawyer the medicine, and the lawyer spits it out. Says, this is gasoline. Doctor says, you are healed. My $20, please. Furious, as we know lawyers to be, he decides I cannot be outdone by a doctor. So he goes back the next day. He says, doctor, I've lost all memory. Please heal me. Doctor says, not a problem. Help her. Draw 3, please. He says, wait a minute, that was gasoline. He says, you're healed. $20, please. Now the lawyer really is furious and he thinks this doctor I must get. So he goes back. He says, doctor, I'm blind. The doctor says, yes, like. The doctor was Afrikaans like bears. He says, yes, like. Now I can't heal that. So he says, now it's time I pay you your $100. So the doctor takes out a $5 note, gives it in his hand, and he says, here's your $100. He says, but wait a minute, this is $5. You are healed. Luckily, we don't have any of those lawyers in the house. We are waiting for the commissioners. So before we go on with the event, we are going to ask, is Mr. Dlamini already seated? How many Mr. Dlaminis are here? Okay, you, sir. Okay. Oh, the one and only. Okay. So, Mr. Dlamini, Dr. Juanita, we do have a very special, shall I say, item. Sounds like we're in a show, item that we've prepared. But I'm going to allow IT to play us back the song. I thought I'd tell the joke, and by the time I'm done, the commissioners will be back. Well, that was a miserable failure. So I'm going to ask IT to play the song they were playing before I interrupted you guys. And can Mr. Likala go check on the commissioners? We did plan for the interviews to be after, but what do I know? I'm just a program director. Thank you, IT. at that, the commissioners are back. Thank you, Commissioner. We proceed with our program, and the next speaker, I'm very excited for the next speaker to join us on stage. This guy, he has over 40 years experience in customs. Now you must wonder, how did he manage 40 years? He ran away from the military. That's what happened. And so, no relation to the famous Miss Charlize Theron, although he'd like us to believe that they are cousins. I'll call upon Mr. Bears Theron to give us a presentation on the findings of the time release study. A very warm welcome to the Director of Customs, Mr. Bears Theron.
I will let Pozzi know that I was 7 when I joined Customs, long before the army. But yeah, so you know, this TRS is really about building capacity. And I couldn't help this morning. Nati, can you remember when Gugu spoke? How nicely she said, Oshoek. You got it. Well done, Gugu. That's capacity building, huh? That's development. I'm really impressed. Right, good morning everyone. I wanted to, before I start, I just wanted to acknowledge my friend, Tseko Nimasani from Lesotho Revenue, and his colleague for also joining us today. He's the Deputy Commissioner in the Customs area. And we really appreciate that you are here, because it's quite important for us to actually spread what we're doing here across SACU. And you are equally regarded as a very key partner and friend of South Africa. But I also think that it's quite appropriate now. I want 2 guys to stand up. The one guy's name is Ntantla Nchakala. Am I right? Is he? There we go. There's the gentleman. And the other chap is called Mike Lakala. So these 2 were the guys who actually drove the TRS on the ground, that actually made it happen. And I think that a good round of applause for them is appropriate. I think you guys have done a marvelous job to get us into this position, and I'm hoping, or I'm certainly going to require, that you equally drive implementation of some of the recommendations that we will deal with today. So your job is not finished, it's only starting now. So thanks a lot for your efforts, and thanks for where you've got us today. It's really appreciated, and it's a job well done. Okay, so, all right, so I'm going to concentrate. There's a lot we've already touched on in terms of the TRS today in the different speeches, keynote speeches. So I'm going to try and concentrate on recommendations, but I'll just briefly skim through. We now know that in November last year, we started this process, that the capacity was developed, and that capacity will grow and be an ongoing capacity for TRS going forward. We also spoke about the fact that the test, the asset test of the TRS is on the customs declaration and on the customs manifest, the cargo declaration, and we spoke about the fact that we focused on imports, export, and transit procedures. So that's quite important in terms of the background, but why would we want to do a TRS? And there's a lot's been spoken about that, because we need to get better at what we do. We need to find efficiencies in the flow of goods cross-border. My commissioner spoke about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement will only have value if we can put money back in the pockets of trade to get the real benefit. And that means that as customs administrations, as different government agencies, we need to get much smarter at what we do at the border. And the principles for that has to be efficiencies in our processes, risk management systems, and data that enables us to do so. So we kind of concentrated on where is the bottlenecks, and we heard this morning about the dwell time for truck drivers, how much time they spend before the border. And we also heard, or we also see as the outcome of this, that we sometimes as different agencies stop the same thing, and as different customs administrations too. And we are not leveraging off or capitalizing on the fact that we have these relationships in place, and we can actually move to a single inspection rather than multiple inspections. And then the thing that guides us and is called the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement. And that is not an instrument for customs. It's an instrument for government. It means that every role player, when DTIC or trader industry in the two countries, when they signed that we are ceding to the TFA, that means that the government of South Africa and the government of Eswatini now have to drive the implementation of the Trade Facilitation Agreement. And everyone is under the cosh for all the articles. So for argument's sake, in the case of today, Article 6 talks to the establishment and publication of average release times. Now we are telling to the world that this is our release times, and here is where we spend too much time and too little time. And it's quite important for us because we should take this as the baseline for becoming better and better and better in what we do. Also, Article 8, which actually requires of us and demands of us that there must be border agency cooperation. And we've heard today of the good collaboration. We've got to put that collaboration now on steroids. For the sake of our countries and for the sake of our trade and making us economically competitive in the world. Oh, sorry. You know, I don't think your story is working here. Ah, there we go. It is working. All right. So when we look at the methodology, and I'm not going to go in detail, we heard that we did a snapshot sample, and we look at it from two angles, what happens in our systems and what happens in the physical flow, and all of this is then captured in the TRS tool. There we go. And then we found these lovely maps that actually takes from the beginning to the end what actually happens in the flow. And if you look at this particular slide, which talks to the export process, there's two areas of opportunity. The one lies in the immigration queuing. How can we improve that? 23 minutes. And then there's one that sticks out as a sore thumb, and that is the driver collects the truck. So there's a lot of time that is being spent between getting all the paperwork sorted out, going to the truck, and then coming into the control area with that truck. And there's huge efficiencies that we can achieve in this regard. Otherwise, it looks relatively okay, but there's also opportunity for improvement. Now, if we look at the import process, you'll find that there is similar points that stick out. For argument's sake, OGA verification queuing. Then there's also the customs verification, which is shorter, but is there really a need for that if we re-engineer the process? Then collecting the truck, 15 minutes, etc. And here lies opportunities where we can really streamline the process and be much smarter at what we do. So, my commissioner has touched on how long it takes. 1 hour, 24 minutes for the physical flow of goods. On the South African side, when it comes to export, that is really a long time, and we need to see how we can cut that down. And similarly, when you come in on the South African side, 34 minutes. If you take overall, the flow across border is around 2.5 hours. Our ambition now needs to be set at doing this in minutes, and not only on the South African side, but also on the other side of the border. So that's quite important. You heard the findings, you heard the fact that the flows are quite long, that there's a lot of time spent by a clearing agent. So when you come to the border and you haven't captured your declaration, we cannot, after 10 years, a decade, of implementing the ability to pre-clear, still have a figure of 25%. This is something that we collectively with trade have to address and see how we can enable trade and regulating bodies to do all their work upstream so that there's a seamless experience for the trader when they get to the border and cross. We have some particular challenges with technology at the borders. That's something that we need to look at. The response times from the systems, 10 minutes in today's day and age is not acceptable. It's got to be significantly faster. The bottlenecks, we spoke about the queuing with normal travelers of truck drivers. We spoke about the fact they spend a lot of time outside the border in the informal area around the border. And we spoke about the number of declarations and, again, the turnaround times there. So we have been engaging with stakeholders before, and that we also need to put on steroids. And today's launch of the TRS report is a valuable step in terms of communicating to the greater community the work that we are doing. But we also need to engage more and more robust in terms of what it is that trade would like to see. How do they see the turnaround times? Where do they see potential areas where we could become significantly better? So the recommendations. So the first thing in terms of recommendations is we've got to try to keep the driver in the truck through the whole process. That means that we need to actually put all those processes that takes up a lot of lead time. Remember the verification, the fact that the driver has to get out of his vehicle, walk to the office, walk back, spend time. We've got to try to minimize that. So the first bullet talks to the fact that the customs officer that does the mark for arrival and mark for exit processes and the border management authority resource that does the immigration function can co-locate in the flow through the border. Therefore, dedicated windows so that the immigration control and the mark for arrival can happen at once, and when you've crossed the border, it can happen for the mark for exit also within the flow. That's quite important. The second bullet that you see there, we need to do work with the telecommunications service providers in increasing the network capacity at Oshoek Ngwenya. It can't be that you do pre-processing but wait for 10 minutes, or you have to spend a lot of time waiting at the border for IT-related messaging or status reports. So that is an area that we need to zoom in and see how we can get assistance from them in making it better for all of us. The third bullet that you will find there, improve the import verification, the BMA and the customs import verification efficiency. That's what I spoke to. Why can we not combine those processes in the flow, in the gatehouse? So if you have a customs resource there, if you have a border management authority resource there, we can do those verification processes there and only disrupt the flow if a further intervention is required outside of the green lane experience. In other words, if an inspection for health, for customs, agriculture, or for illicit goods is required in the flow of the goods through the border. The next bullet that you see there is simplify the truck retrieval process. So actually, if you look at the previous point, you will negate the need for the truck retrieval process because the truck driver would not need to get out of his vehicle. If a truck driver, if you take the situation as it is today currently, if a truck driver, or let's say 2 or 3 truck drivers stop against the hill at Oshoek, and they go and do their formalities inside the border and then come out and decide they're going to go for a quick lunch, or they're going to watch the second half of a soccer game in a pub. It is literally a few minutes and the trucks are piling up against that hill. That is a danger. First of all, it's a tremendous risk. And if we can actually cut out the need for anyone to stop, then you eliminate that problem immediately. So that is quite important. And what we're also going to do is that we're going to start looking at creating a holding facility that's away from the border. So if you get to that point and you do not have a proceed to port, and you cannot present a CAN document, a manifest document, then you will not be allowed to or move beyond that point until such time that you can prove your clearance. So that's quite important, and hopefully in time to come we may start being quite manual intensive and with the assistance of the Border Management Authority and our transport colleagues, the CBRTA. But in time to come, that will need to be replaced by some of the ANPR, automated number plate recognition technologies that we are implementing currently under the Smart Border project. And we can then do a reading there and direct through automation the truck driver to go into a facility rather than having resource-intensive processes and spare those resources for real value-add activity. And then the important thing that we've also discussed quite significantly today is foster collaboration among stakeholders. And I've made the point that it requires us to put the management of our relationships on steroids. We need to get much better in seeking opportunities, in integrating our processes and finding efficiencies as a collective, both through trade and government. And then something which I know I sound like a stuck gramophone when I talk about this one, but really, if you look at everything that we've done and that we've spoke of, when it comes to legitimate trade, we cannot talk about one-stops anymore. We have to provide a different experience for the trader who is compliant, and that is that through technology, automation, and through upstream processing within our systems, we provide the ability to have a non-stop border experience for legitimate trade. So the next steps. So we've done a pilot, we've spoken about that pilot, and we've spoken about the fact that we have now seen the ability to get to a 10-minute turnaround time on the South African side. I think it would be really wonderful to see the day that it's actually a 10-minute border experience from the time that you enter on the South African side for on an export to the time that you exit on the Eswatini side. And there's nothing wrong with us in start setting our ambitions. I'm sure that the CG for Eswatini will agree. But that pilot had to stop because of resource constraints, and we will fix that up. So I think it's quite important that that becomes a permanent feature and that the co-location of customs and the Border Management Authority at entry and exit points are implemented as soon as possible. It's also important in the context of, we set an ambition, the Commissioner spoke about connectivity and the exchange of data. So it's quite important that we leverage more on that and that we actually move to what we set out to do, and that is your export become my import. And that talks to a single customs declaration. But what we can also do in the medium term is start thinking about what other data pieces can we exchange with each other. So how do we exchange the manifest, the gate arrival, and the gate exit information to even get more clarity across the supply chain, and also the ability to do upstream processing by both parties or entities within the supply chain. And then, of course, associated with that is the CAN, the cargo reference number, that we could also share. In the longer term then, our ambition is set at a single declaration. And we can certainly, as we sit here today and talk about that, and there's been a referral to that in the keynote addresses, our aspiration on a single declaration need not be set only because we are doing something with Eswatini. It needs to be set so it can build the footprint and the blueprint for what we can do under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement on the continent. We can expand this to be much more than just a single declaration between members of SACU or between South Africa and Eswatini. That's quite important. I spoke about the establishment of a one-stop border post and the ambition that we have to set ourselves to provide for a seamless and an enjoyable trade experience at our land border posts. I will conclude there, so thank you very much for your time.
Apologies. Thank you to the director. What a clear and concise and straightforward, passionate presentation. If you're wondering, yes, it is performance appraisal times at SARS. And he's my ultimate boss, so I'm a lady with a plan. Next up, very importantly, a message from our representative of the private sector. We need these guys because when we test our systems and when we want comments to our legislation, they are the sounding board. They support us. They make sure that they attend our events. They direct us to go to the left. We always go to the right. So with grace, I'd like to call up Dr. Juanita Maria to come on stage and share a word from the private sector. And she has a partner, Mr. Nati Dlamini. Oh, and I have a role to play. South Africa,
Eswatini, the private sector. Together we can do it.
Dr. Juanita Maria. I know he's my...
I'm not sure if my slides are on, so maybe if they can help me. Commissioner, are we accepted in your choir? I'm not sure. Do we have an absolute yes or not sure? So I will see if my slides come up, but if it doesn't, I think it will be shared afterwards. All protocol observed. So we from private sector is very privileged to participate in this because as you've seen what I want to portray you, it's a process. And in the process, each one needs to know the tune. From South Africa, Eswatini, to private sector. And we need to fall in a sequence. And I think time release study was helping us to understand that there's a process. In the process, there's a QA, and what is the role of each stakeholder in the process. And ultimately, what excited us from the TRS, it's quite a methodology that's grounded in scientific data. The scientific data can be analyzed, and from that, there's good conclusions. And many of you probably know that there's bad and there's good strategies, and the good strategy is not to talk about the vision and mission goals, but it's to say, what is the diagnosis, what is the guiding principles, and what is the action plans? And I like Bayer's last slide because what do we want in private sector? We want to reduce time, we want to reduce cost, we want to have a quick resilience factor to bounce back, And above all, we want sustainability, because if we don't have sustainability in our land borders, our cargo flows cannot flow. So I hope you will remember in years to come our small presentation, because that will show you we've got a time-release study needed in our lives. And thank you.
That was fun. We should get paid for that. And next up, without further ado, the message from Eswatini Private Sector Representative, Mr. Nathi Dlamini. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I think she's the funniest person I've ever heard in a long time. Please give a big hand of applause. I have an amazing sense of humor myself. My mother told me, well, I choose to believe her. That's what she said. And on top of that, she said I had good looks. And that's what mothers do, I guess. Feed us lies that we believe and make us better people. I've just realized, much to my surprise, that I've only been given 5 minutes. So I'm going to read quite fast, but it means you have to listen fast as well. And I'm going to tell when people are listening fast, they just always move their heads like this, I can tell. But just make sure you don't finish listening before I finish. So with that said, if I can skip the opening and just say all protocol respectfully is observed. A very good morning to all of you. And indeed, it is a very profound honor and privilege for me to stand before you today as we gather to launch the joint time-release study report, a significant milestone in our journey towards enhancing trade facilitation. The joint initiative exemplifies the power of collaboration and shared vision. Today, we celebrate not just a report, but the tangible efforts and unwavering commitment of multiple stakeholders working together to create a more efficient and transparent trading environment. At Business Eswatini, we firmly believe that the private sector plays a pivotal role in driving economic growth and fostering sustainable development. Our commitment to working hand in hand with the customs authorities of both South Africa and indeed Eswatini is unwavering. We recognize that by facilitating trade and ensuring compliance, we are not only enhancing the competitiveness of our businesses, but also contributing to the prosperity of both our nations. The successful completion of this time-release report is a testament to what can be achieved when we unite our efforts. It provides us with the critical insights into the bottlenecks and opportunities within our customs processes, enabling us to streamline operations, reduce delays, and ultimately lower the cost of doing business across the region. We are very much committed to leveraging these insights to implement best practices and drive continuous improvement in our trade facilitation mechanisms. I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the Eswatini Trade Facilitation Committee for their dedication and hard work. Your efforts have been instrumental in ensuring that this study is comprehensive and indeed is reflective of the realities on the ground. Your commitment to enhancing trade facilitation is commendable, and we look forward to continuing our collaboration with you in the future. Similarly, we express our heartfelt thanks to the Border Management Authority in South Africa. Your role in managing and securing our borders is crucial, and your contributions to this study have been invaluable. Together, we can cultivate a border environment that is both secure and also conducive to trade, benefiting businesses and consumers alike. As we move forward, let us remember that the true measure of our success lies not in the completion of this report, but in the implementation of its recommendations. Let us remain committed to fostering a culture of trust, transparency, and cooperation between the private sector and customs authorities. By doing so, we can create an environment where trade flows smoothly, compliance is the norm, and economic growth is accelerated. In closing, I would like to reiterate the commitment of Business Eswatini, and indeed the private sector, to working collaboratively with all stakeholders. Together we can build a brighter future for our businesses, our economies, and our people. Let us seize this opportunity to drive meaningful change and set a new standard for trade facilitation in our region. Thank you. May God bless you.
That was amazing. Who wants to take their change from school? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Lamin. Next up, a very important stakeholder for SARS and the entire border. We work together and in collaboration with many other government organizations. I'd like to bring up the General of the Border Management Authority, General David Chilembe. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Program Director. When I was sitting there, I thought that I must also bring my IT in order to present while reading on my IT. But then I realized that Payers and Mr. Lamin were also reading on paper. So then I saw that I'm not alone. Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is David Chilembe. I'm from the Border Management Authority, the newly established authority in South Africa, charged with the facilitation of border control at all our 71 ports of entry in the country. The BMA was established, and there's an act that directs how the BMA should work, Act 2 of 2020. And the reason why I'm mentioning this, I want you to have an understanding that we understand how the processes of borders should be dealt with. That act has got a section that says the BMA must have an implementation protocol with SARS Customs. So SARS Customs are not part of the BMA. However, they are part of border management. So we are a border management authority, but SARS Customs is not part of that. That implementation protocol clearly stipulates the roles between the two entities. So I wanted to, before we start, just to mention that we know exactly and we understand how things should be done. Program Director, thank you so much. I will say also protocol observed. And also to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, and stakeholders who are present today. It is an honor to address you today at this significant gathering as we launch the time release study report for the Oshoek. Babungwenya is calling it different, it's Oshoek, but it says it's Oshoek and Ngwenya border post. This initiative marks a pivotal step in our continuous efforts to enhance border management and trade facilitation between the two sister countries. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the South African Revenue Services and all parties involved for their dedication and hard work in conducting the comprehensive study. My heartfelt thanks to Commissioner Kisveta, I nearly said Edward. When we were brought up, was that we don't call older people by name. And, and Commissioner General Brightwell Msutu. I heard that your surname has changed to Msutu. For their unwavering support to the TRS working group. And this includes all the senior officials that are present, to include the BMA officers and all that are in attendance. I also acknowledge the World Customs Organization for their invaluable technical guidance in this regard. The time release study is a critical tool in assessing the efficiency of customs and the movement of goods clearance processes by systematically measuring the time taken off for goods to be released from customs control. The TRS also provides us with a vital insights into the effectiveness of our current procedures and identifies areas of improvement. This study is not just a reflection of our operational capabilities, but also a benchmark for international trade standards. There are certain findings that the TRS has come up with. I think Payers, when he was presenting, outlined them very well. The TRS at Oshoek and Ngwenya border post has revealed key insights. For instance, that a quarter of bill of entries are processed by clearing agents after trucks arrive, and the time between a road manifest submission and the truck being marked for arrival is often less than an hour for 25% of the consignments. These findings highlight the need for streamlining procedures to reduce bottlenecks and enhance efficiency of customs operations. There are various recommendations that have been made. I always go back to what payers have presented. One of it is the optimization of the immigration procedures, that we have to allocate dedicated immigration windows for truck drivers to expedite clearance and reduce congestion. In other words, we will have to, the BMA and SARS, we have to coexist or co-locate in order to do this work. In terms of the enhancement of the network, the infrastructure upgrade, network coverage to ensure timely communication for response of messages. With regards to the streamlining of important verification, we have to implement measures to expedite verification without compromising accuracy. In the facilitation of truck retrieval, establish a designated pickup points to minimize wait times for drivers. I think we have seen what Payers was proposing, that we have to have the truck stops and all those issues prior them arriving at the port. In terms of stakeholder collaboration, we have to foster regular dialogues and cooperation among all stakeholders. For this one, also to mention that the PMA Act also specified clearly that there should be stakeholder collaboration. We have to also explore the one-stop border post, assess the feasibility of designing Oshoek as a one-stop border post, and to streamline clearance procedures. Let me mention at this session that Oshoek Ngwenya has already been identified as one of the one-stop border posts that South Africa is and Eswatini we are embarking on, whereby the border posts will be redesigned and rebuilt in order to be a one-stop border post. We are using a PPP process in order to do that. It's not only government that will be dealing with that, but we are including private sector. The implementation of these recommendations will significantly improve the efficiency of border operations, reduce transaction cost, and attract foreign investment. Improved trade facilitation is crucial for economic growth, and the insight from this study will serve as a foundation for future improvement. In conclusion, the launch of the TRS report is not just an academic exercise. I think all of us sitting here, we know about that. It is a call for action. We should walk the walk or the talk. It is a demonstration of our commitment to transparency, efficiency, and international best practices. As we move forward, let us embrace these findings and work together or collaboratively to implement the necessary changes. Thank you so much for your attention and continued support. Together we can make our borders more secure, efficient, and conducive to economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you to you, General. And if there was any doubt about the theme of today, collaboration for effective trade facilitation, everything that we've heard from all the speakers embed the principle of partnership. We are almost nearing the end of our official program. I have one more speaker before the ceremony that must happen, and I'd like to call from the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry from Eswatini, Principal Secretary representing the ministry. A round of applause.
Thank you, Program Director. My name is Lungile Dlamini Mahlalela, the Director for International Trade. It's always nice when you are towards, when the event is coming to an end, because you have all the time. But believe me, I won't take all your time. I'm pleased to be here today as we move the trade facilitation agenda, which we signed under the WTO in SADC, AFCTA. It's always a pleasure for me because it's a commitment in implementing the agreements which we signed as the two countries that will enable the trade to smoothly flow between the two countries. Program Director, the previous speakers have already made my work easier, and please allow me to write on the protocols which have already been observed. Let me begin by apologizing on behalf of the co-chair of the Eswatini National Trade Facilitation Committee, who's also the Principal Secretary for the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Mr. Nkambule. He would have loved to be with us today, but due to other equally important assignments, he's not able to participate. Without any further delay, please allow me to just deliver his remarks the way they are, so that I don't change anything, because the two principal secretaries today are here. They will just tell him that the Director for International Trade messed up your speech. It's my great pleasure and honor to be part of this gracious occasion of the launch of the Oshoek Border End-to-End Time Release Study for the Kingdom of Eswatini and the Republic of South Africa. Indeed, this event marks a significant milestone in our collective efforts to enhance trade facilitation and improve efficiency of our border management processes and procedures, including reducing the cost of doing business. This TRS is a vital tool that enables us to identify the bottlenecks in the clearance at the Oshoek border. It also measured the time taken by goods to complete the processes on import, export, and transit at the borders. By understanding these time frames, we can therefore streamline procedures and ultimately expedite the movement and clearance of goods across our borders. This not only enhances our economic competitiveness, but it also contributes to the ease of doing business in our respective countries regionally and as we integrate with the African continent and the rest of the world. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the study resonates with the vision and mission of the Eswatini National Trade Facilitation Committee roadmap, which is to transform Eswatini into a one-stop border, paperless and climate-smart seamless trade hub with digitalized processes, and to reduce the time and cost for facilitating legitimate goods across our borders through digitalization of trade-related procedures, which allow or promote inclusive participation of women and youth, respectively. In a world where timely delivery of goods is crucial to maintaining the flow of trade, this study provides us with actionable insights and data-driven recommendations. It is once again an essential step towards achieving our vision of a seamless trade. As I'm about to end my remarks, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to our private sector from both Eswatini and South Africa, the World Customs Organization, Eswatini Revenue Service, and other government agencies, the Border Management Agency, South African Revenue Service, the Businesses and Trade Association, and all our esteemed partners and stakeholders, particularly the UK government, who have made this study possible. Your dedication, hard work, and collaboration have been instrumental in bringing us to this point. Today's launch is just the beginning. The real work lies ahead as we implement the findings and recommendations of the study, as well as we embark on the necessary reforms which will promote the image of the revenue services from both countries, specifically the customs administration and other trade stakeholders concerning the country's commitment to trade facilitation. It is therefore imperative that we continue to work together, leveraging the insights gained to make informed decisions that will drive improvements in our customs processes and border management and make us realize our vision of a one-stop border post. Together, let us make a significant impact on the future of trade in Eswatini and South Africa. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lungile Dlamini. I'm sure the Secretary will be very proud of the work that you did. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now the time we have been waiting for. No, not lunch yet. It's coming. It is the time for the official launch of the time release study reports. I would like to invite Commissioner General of Eswatini and the Commissioner of SARS to come up as my team is preparing the place to sit. Oh, they are going to bring the tables on the stage. It was a little bit dark in the corner. We will have the ceremonial signing of the reports. They need the table, guys. The commissioners are always assisted when they sign these reports, so I'll ask those that will assist the commissioners to come on stage. Ceremonial assistance, okay. The reports are making their way to the stage. Can we kill the light? We can't kill the light. Yes, yeah. It's better. Thank you very much. Can I ask the reports to make their way to the stage? I'm hoping the pens are working. The photographers will take their best lenses to capture this momentous occasion. Let us make sure they are signing the correct documents. It is at this time that I will also ask the lady to prepare the exchange of gifts, or the lady and the gentleman. We are African. Gifting is what we do. The covers will not be read out loud, commissioners. A round of applause. Can I have amafleti lapho? Chovicho. We thought we'll bring the most beautiful looking ladies to exchange the gifts. Just when you think you cannot be outdone. They have not seen the gifts because we've wrapped them. It's a surprise. A round of applause, everyone. Ah, la, 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 la. Are the SARS pictures very bright? And the BMA sham. Oh, the Eswatini guy is looking at me. Yours too, sir. Thank you, commissioners. You guys are great sport. We have come to almost the end of our program. In a true African style, an elder is supposed to do a vote of thanks. I mean, I can always thank you guys, but it doesn't sound quite the same, right? So I'm gonna call a deputy commissioner from SARS. I must tell you, this guy ran 7 marathons, comrade marathons. right? I guess since he joined SARS, he hasn't been able to run any because running taxpayer affairs and revenue is a marathon itself. So on the 9th of July, please make sure you catch the Deputy Commissioner, Mr. Johnston Makubu, during the Comrades Marathon, standing outside, waiting for the athletes to give them water. Because that's all he can do right now. After Mr. Makubu has come and given a vote of thanks, there is a video that was prepared. The IT and the telecommunications people would kill me if I did not play that video because it took hours and hours of footage. No, the video is not an hour. It just took hours to make. So after Commissioner Makubu comes through, we will play the video for 5 minutes and we will close the program. Over to you, Mr. Johnston Makubu.
Indeed, I will be waiting at 43-kilometer mark. And if you are here and you are in need of drinks, fortunately, I won't be able to give you any other drinks that attract excise. Let me also join and say all protocol observed. Mine is a very short task that I need to do here. General Chilembe, I decided to bring not paper, but my gadget. In 2023, the World Economic Forum, when it gathered in Davos, they adopted a theme, cooperation in a fragmented world. When they met in 2024, earlier on this year, they adopted a theme that is titled Building Trust. Earlier on this year, the World Customs Organization adopted a theme, Customs Engaging Traditional and New Partners with Purpose. In all this, you will agree, ladies and gentlemen, that the issue of multi-stakeholderism rings true in everything that we ought to be doing in the highly evolving and changing world. Therefore, it was encouraging throughout the program today to hear everybody talking about a need to cooperate and to collaborate in order to make our borders much more efficient. Indeed, John Donne's statement and his masterpiece titled No Man or Woman is an Island rings true even today, that nobody can be able to succeed on their own. And this study that was launched here today is testament to the fact that we ought to continue to work together in order to better our environment. It is often said, as you heard earlier, that borders divide and customs connect. Today, indeed, is a testament to this very statement. The collaboration between the two administrations is in the time-release study, as we heard today, takes us a step closer to unlocking what is possible in intra-African trade. Ladies and gentlemen, without taking too much time, allow me to extend our heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the SARS Commissioner to the General Commissioner of Eswatini Revenue Service for cooperating with SARS throughout this time-release study. We also want to extend our gratitude and appreciation to customs teams on both sides of the border for tirelessly working to make sure that this study was indeed a success. I want to also extend our gratitude to our partnering entities in various capacities, including the UK government, the WCO, the BMA, the South African Police Service, DTIC, and other government agencies that participated throughout this study. Wouldn't be able to complete this study without the cooperation of various industry bodies both on the South African side and the side of Eswatini. Therefore, would like to thank those that are in the public sector, private sector, and the industry bodies that are represented by them for aiding in this process, and we look forward
to working together as we move forward. In the events of this nature, ladies and gentlemen, it takes meticulous and professional planning to make sure that they're a success. And I'm sure you'll attest that indeed everything today was planned to the T. Would like to also thank the entire customs team under Director Theron, who worked tirelessly to make sure that this day comes and it becomes a success. We thank you for all your efforts that has come together and culminated into this successful day. I would be amiss if I don't appreciate the program director for her handling of the program so well. I'm sure you wouldn't mind giving her a round of applause. Consistently, the issue of implementation and execution bias came out in the discussions today. Let us therefore go forward and hold ourselves to implementing the recommendations that came out of this study. Allow me to borrow from an African proverb that gives us wisdom as we continue to want to implement the recommendations of this study. To go fast, you must go alone. To go far, we must go together. Let us indeed choose to go together. Thank you.
I think my tender is finished. Before I gracefully leave the stage, I indeed will conclude the program, and thereafter, I'd like to invite each and every one of you to a free lunch, which is probably the only thing that you get free from a revenue service. Or except for free audits, we do those for free. So before the video comes on, allow me to close the program by stealing from one of our ex-presidents, or our former presidents, who once said, "I am an African. I am the child of Nongqawuse. I am he who made trade possible in the global markets where we trade in gold and diamonds. The time has come to make superhuman effort to respond to the call to create for ourselves a glorious future. Glory must be sought after." So thank you for allowing me to direct this program. It has indeed been an honor. And this has been SARS at your service. IT, the video, please.
As a member of the World Customs Organization, the WCO, SARS benefits from many of its initiatives, its recommendations, guidelines, and programs, including the Mercator Trade Facilitation Program, which aims to support member countries in implementing the World Trade Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, the TFA. When it was then decided to conduct a time release study, or TRS, at the South African land border for that purpose, and with the assistance of the program's manager, Ms. Donya Hamani, we wanted to leverage the excellent relations we have with our fellow SACU member states, as well as select a SACU border post that carries a high volume of cargo on a daily basis for such a TRS. The Oshoek Ngwenya border post best fitted those criteria. If one considers that the World Bank estimates that a reduction in non-tariff barriers, which border congestion and delays are in essence, can account for about 2/3 of the $450 billion in potential income gains from the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, then it is clear that time release studies are a vital tool to help us to achieve the elimination of NTBs. The Oshoek Ngwenya border TRS was very successful, and its data and final report have made it possible to start formulating and applying specific measures to improve the flow of cargo and travellers. SARS regards trade efficiency as extremely important, and I've collaborated for many years with the trade community. Our systems today allow for pre-clearance and processing in seconds. Our risk-based approach is showing success rates of around 45 to 50%, and we have over the last 5 years reduced manual inspections to now risk-based interventions and put more money in the pockets of trade. With the TRS, we are increasing collaboration opportunities to include the Border Management Authority, other government agencies, and our SACU partners. And early results of the TRS is already showing a reduction in turnaround times from approximately 1.5 hours to 10 minutes. Thank you to all who share our view of a seamless and efficient cross-border process. Now that the bottlenecks are more clearly quantified, I hope you will join us and lend your support on improving cross-border processing, not only at Oshoek, but at all other SACU and international borders. Thank you.
When the decision was taken to undertake the time release study, ERS approached the World Customs Organization in order to be assisted in terms of building capacity and competencies within our teams so that we could appropriately implement the time release study, which is regarded as a global standard for measuring and assessing release times, looking at the efficiency of our processes and the number of interactions that we have at the border with our various stakeholders. What then happened is that in November 2023, we conducted the time release study jointly with SARS, not only just with SARS, but also they incorporated or included their partners within the border environment, just as Eswatini also did the same. Under the Trade Facilitation Committee, we have a number of agencies that are part of the committee who were also involved as part of the technical working group to implement the joint time release study. And since we have been privy to some of the key recommendations from the study, we have also then collaborated with South Africa to identify quick wins which have already been operationalized at Ngwenya, Oshoek. This includes the separation of traffic lanes so that we are able to process our commercial cargo separately from travelers who are not bringing in goods for trade. And we believe that this key improvement in the way in which we have structured our processes at the border will bring big benefits to businesses on both sides in Eswatini and also in South Africa.
What does the RFA do? Well, the RFA looks after, in the main, road freight transporters, sometimes called hauliers. They move all around the country, and in actual fact, they move through the southern Africa, the tip of Africa, and even into Central Africa. That means we cross borders. And crossing borders is not an easy task for anyone. And that's where TRS comes into play. A very, very important program. And it has changed the whole landscape and the way in which our members, these road freight operators, experience the borders.
We have also started splitting cargo and travelers at Oshoek border post. Previously, before the TRS was conducted, travelers and cargo were processed in the same place. But now we are leveraging on the current infrastructure for the split. We have also started co-locating with other government agencies to process cargo more quicker. Our processing time has improved tremendously on both Ngwenya and Oshoek side. More details on the processing time are contained in the report, which will be made available in 2024.
And for us, TSR or TRS is looking at the different activities, it's mapping the activities, and then it also takes and measure the time that it takes to perform the activities. But for us, more importantly, it's also measure the interaction of the different activities. And that makes our lives very exciting, because now with TRS, you can link now the ocean modality with the air modality, and more importantly, you bring either the first mile or the last mile, which is the road freight, into the supply chain. And you can measure then how the activities are performing and what needs to be done.
The milestone that we have achieved is that we are collaborating very well with all the stakeholders. through the PMC, that is a Port Management Committee meeting, that is sitting, bi-monthly, bi-weekly. And what happens, we discuss all, issues and challenges that might be impeding the issue of freight. And we are also, we've also tried to put 2 workstations specifically to process, the trucks, right at the place, at the exit point where SARS is operating. In that space, it's where the trucks are actually, marking for exit, as well as marking for arrival. We have got 2 of our systems there, and we deploy officials to process the truck drivers there, so that we cut the time, the turnaround time for the processing of the trucks, and it is working fantastic.
The customs digital journey started in the 70s with CAPE, our customs automated processing of entries. In the 90s, the EDI gateway was added for electronic data interchange, and the customs digital ecosystem grew to 37 disparate systems over the years. In 2013, we replaced these with a single modularized customs digital platform covering declaration and manifest processing, licensing and certificates, tariff management, risk management, case management, account management, and later e-filing. Today, we process over 2.4 million goods and cargo declarations. Over 90% of these declarations are processed within 30 seconds. Electronic case management, which includes digitized supporting documents, allows cases to be finalized at a rate of 80% within 3 days. Our world-class risk engine precisely stops less than 2% of declarations with a 30% success rate. Integrated electronic goods and cargo declaration, acquittal regulates cargo flow without unnecessary physical intrusion. SARS digital platforms therefore capably underpin our vision and core strategic objectives, finding the balance between clarity and certainty, making it easy and making it hard.
For us, in Eswatini, we mark the arrival of the truck physically at the border, and the truck, when it arrives, it will park at the parking bay, and the driver has to walk to the customs hall, where we will stamp the passport, and then move to customs, where he will pay for road toll, and then submit declaration when necessary. The declarations, as we all know, that as a CODA declaration has different lanes or selectivity lanes, whereby there are some which are red and some are on green lane. For those that are on green lanes, the truck driver will always come with a declaration with an exit note to say that the declaration process is almost done. For us as customs, we will only endorse or do the total exit on that declaration, and then the truck can come through into Eswatini. And then for those that are on red lane, which are mostly for physical inspection, and then there are some for the Segulula program, which we have with South Africa. For those under Segulula, they are always submitted at the customs counter, because for those we have to take the original documents upon the arrival of the truck.
Inquiry minds can ask what exactly has happened. This is a time release study, and I'm very, very pleased that following the time release study, our partners, SARS, ERS, the Eswatini Revenue Service, and the BMA, we came here physically to try to put our heads together, walking through each process from this border, from where I'm speaking now, looking at how we can harmonize and streamline processes to make them quicker. We went through to the other side of the border, which is Oshoek, as well, trying to identify bottlenecks that could be resolved real time, and we did. And those are already at play as we speak. And also we started to encourage people to exploit ICT, which means pre-clearances via online. There is a service already a play that exporters and importers can exploit in terms of pre-clearances, so that when they come to the border, it's a seamless process and it takes less time. But also these processes, in fact, the inefficiencies, they also brought to the fore the importance of the AEO program, Authorized Economic Operator program. And we hereby encourage every importer and exporter to go to ERS on this side and to go to SARS on the South African side to apply for it. Because once approved, coming to the border is so effortless and so quick that those facilities are already available to all of us. And we want them to avail of that whilst we streamline even our process even further physically. And we're looking forward to a very, very great outcome.
A trader received a proceed to port. The truck will move to the border. And at the border, the first step is to collect the papers from the agents. And after collecting the papers from the agent, the papers will mean the manifest and the copy of bill of entry. Then they'll proceed to the customs, where they are going to be marked for arrival. And after marking for arrival, they will then proceed to BMA immigration, where they are going to be also processed in terms of the passport process. Then the driver will move to the truck, where he will collect the truck. Then in the event the truck has a inspection, then they will move to the section where there will be inspection bay, where they are going to be inspected accordingly, then released afterwards. Then they will move to the last step, which is to exit the truck.
Thinking that was not 5 minutes. Thank you to the team. One last announcement. There will be a group photo with the commissioners. The team has already started organizing the individuals that will be taking the group photo with the commissioners. Can I please ask that the group photo be taken just outside in front of the banners, and for everyone else, lunch is served at the hotel. Thank you very much.